Hi everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar on assuring quality in your online course. My name is Sue and I am the assessment specialist here at CGPS. We'll also be joined by other members of the IDS team. So before we get started, just a couple of quick housekeeping details. First, notice your questions field. At any time during the presentation, you can enter questions or comments by typing them into that field. Somebody will be monitoring this, so we'll respond as quickly as we can. Second, we will be recording this webinar and sending out a link to the recording. So if there's something that you missed or want more information on, or want to share what you've learned with friends or colleagues, you'll be able to do so. So, what does it mean to prepare your course? Basically, it means to ensure that you are familiar with two key elements: the course content and the course functioning. So this next slide outlines what we're planning on covering in this webinar. At this point then, I'm going to turn things over to Chris and Olga, who will talk about why it's important to assure quality in your online course.
All right, so this is Olga speaking. Why is preparation so important? Obviously, if you've never taught a course before, this particular one, or there have been major changes to it, you would like to familiarize yourself with the course. And this preparation time, we give you the courses ahead of time. It provides an opportunity to review all aspects of the course before it rolls out to students. You can anticipate where students may have questions. You can get your own questions answered. You can connect with other faculty who have taught this course before and may answer your own questions. By completing the QA and the rest, quality assurance, which we refer to as QA, and the rest of the course checklist will help you avoid issues when you're teaching the course. So you can also take time to plan for your own schedule and anticipate where your workload will be the highest, such as when you will be grading written assignments or providing feedback on an ongoing basis. So Chris, what else? Why else is important?
Well, one of the important things about professionalism is how we present ourselves, of course, and one of the ways that we can really fall by the wayside there is by constantly apologizing for or finding ourselves in the position of trying to accommodate mistakes that could have been addressed ahead of time. And students are not foolish. They understand when they're confronted with, they recognize and appreciate a well-designed course. They'll attribute the polish of a course to the program in which the course belongs and hopefully to the school. We can effectively increase engagement and faith in our programs by making the learning experiences within them more polished. And that is, of course, something that we all want, just, very cynically for the longevity of our programs in our school, but also because we care about learning and we care about the subjects that we teach. Even to get even more cynical, it is actually hard, as everyone who has been put in this position understands, to fix the problems as they're occurring. And it's harder for everyone. Online education really does require an infrastructure, a team around the teacher, around the students, and the students interact with that infrastructure, and they see when that infrastructure is straining to accommodate mistakes as they occur. And that's because it is actually a strain. It's very difficult for everyone involved, for you as the teacher, instructor of record, or facilitator, to deal with them. It's hard for us, instructional designers, to deal with them as well. And ultimately, what it amounts to is that you, who are supposed to be working with the students on the problems, are working on the course instead, and we want to avoid that as much as possible. So this is a very polite way of rephrasing a common phrase about what you get where you put in, and in this case, everyone gets what we put in. including people who have no say over what gets put in, and that's the students. And so we're kind of responsible for their experience. And one of the things that's going to be stressed in this webinar, throughout this webinar, is that the process of assuring the quality of a course is a collaborative one, and there's no one person who's responsible for any one thing, and that's a good thing. And it's also, you know, it requires that everyone be working together, communicating, and it requires that everyone care and put in the time to assure this quality. And also, something you're going to kind of like see is that, or hear rather, is that we're all in here. This is a cool thing we're doing. We are all presenting little pieces of this. So you're going to hear your own instructional designers. You're going to hear other instructional designers that you've never spoken to. So can everyone say hi? Hi! We're actually moving around the table, all taking turns. And right now, I want to again remind you that you can ask questions at any time. We have our dear Susan Barrett-Hyde on moderating those questions. She can answer them as they come in, hopefully, but also she might address or bring up questions that seem really pertinent to everyone in the room. So type those in at any time. We'll try and stay on top of them. We will address them at some point, even if it ends up being after this webinar. So type in questions at any time, but now we're going to move on to Sarah and Christine to talk about how you can prepare for your course by personalizing it.
So this is where you can get a bit more creative. My name is Christine, and we're going to start with welcome announcements. And this is where you're really going to personalize your course as you become familiar with it. Welcome announcements are a fantastic way to personalize your course. They're a great way to introduce yourself to your students and share important information. You'll want to make sure, though, that you include contact information, what to do in case of technical problems, and other course-related items. You can, like I said, get a bit more creative. You can include a bio and a picture, and in fact, you should include a bio. And we have two very different examples of welcome announcements, so you can see that you don't necessarily have to adhere to one format or another. This first welcome announcement takes a more casual approach, so you can see that the instructor begins with "Hi everyone," and then he delves into his background and where he lives, and you need not put that information, but it adds a personal touch. And then he addresses some housekeeping tips. And so this is a more, I would say, perhaps laid-back approach. We have a second type of announcement, and this is a bit more formal. And both announcements share roughly the same information. You'll see, once again, the biography, some course guidance, communication suggestions, and then at the end, they both show quite a bit of excitement for the coming term. So feel free to be creative with your own welcome announcement. Like I said, this is a way to personalize your course. And then, in addition to a welcome announcement, at least once a week, you'll want to post an announcement that summarizes the material and adds your own experience or spin to the content. Once again, you can be quite creative. You can include pictures, videos, graphics, whatever you feel will engage the students. We've had instructors include pictures of their pets, or perhaps pictures from when they visited interesting places. So you can, once again, make this quite interesting. So with these announcements, once again, in order to write the best announcements that are the most helpful, you'll want to become entirely familiar with the course and try and anticipate perhaps where the students experience difficulties. You'll want to identify the software the students are using, for you will perhaps want to include additional guidance through the announcements to help them master that. You want to check for groups, and you'll want to review all assignments, check for interactives or games, trainings, or anything else where you think that the students might have questions. This is one way that you can address concerns before they arise, and it will cut down on the amount of email you'll probably have to field.
Hey everyone, this is Sarah. So the next thing that we are going to touch touch upon is actually one way to get very familiar with your course, which is to complete the quality assurance review. Many of you have probably seen this form or something similar. All of our programs here at UNE have some form of QA before the course rolls to students. The QA is performed at the end of course development as a final check before the course launches. And it's just a way to guide your review of this course, but it's also for us to make sure that everything is in order. Basically, Corey and Mike are going to walk you through some of the items that you are going to find on the QA. Again, everybody's form is slightly different, but Corey and Mike are going to go over the items that are found on a lot of our QAs.
Hello, my name is Mike. So before we get into the sort of nitty-gritty of going through your QA, we have sort of whittled down everything to 3 basic guidelines for you to consider as you begin excuse me, going through your QA process. The first of those is that it's really important that you have a method or some kind of intentional plan as you QA your course. Now, everyone's approach is going to be a little bit different. There's absolutely no one right way to do this, but your method should be one that's meaningful to you, and it should make you feel confident that your course is strong. As you go through your course, use some medium to keep track of all your clicks and observations. This can be a plain text document, a Word document. If you're a spreadsheet person, go for it. Good old-fashioned paper is also great. Be sure to comment on items that need some kind of revision or follow-up, because when you're 3/4 of the way through the course and you realize, wait a minute, I don't know if I looked at the week 3 test items, you'll be really happy that you wrote it down and you know that you did. We want to stress here, though, that when you do find an error, because you will, please leave it alone. If you fix it in one place, that doesn't necessarily fix it everywhere, and it basically kind of destroys the evidence. So it gives us a hard time finding what to fix in other places. Instead of fixing it, just make a note, maybe take a screenshot. Screenshots are awesome.
Screenshots rule.
And, and then just keep going. So that brings us to the final guideline that I have for you guys, and that's just to share your thoughts with IDS. Communicate with us about what you've looked at. That really means leaving detailed comments in the QA checklist. We've got all the QA checklists have fields for elaboration there. There's only so much insight we can glean from a check mark on Google Forms, so the more specific you can be, the better off we all are. Okay, so now Corey is going to demonstrate how to begin looking through your course in Blackboard.
So some of this is a bit more granular. Some of the most common things we'll see across the programs is seeing that the syllabus is reflected correctly in regards to what you're seeing in Blackboard. Lectures are working within the courses. The links are bringing it to where it should be, and the closed captioning is working and correct. Again, so then you're moving on next to the modules, being sure that the content is correct. And the content being correct is one of the most difficult things because it is something that the IDS team generally can't catch. Then, free of typos, we're looking at, assignment alignments, discussion board content being free of those same kind of errors. Quizzes and exams being free of those kind of errors. Again, both the typos and the subject matter kind of errors. The assignments or the answers are an automatic feedback, are set up correctly, so we don't want students, perhaps in my program, getting all of the answers when it is a controlled, proctored exam. And all assignments have the right rubrics if they are assignments which have rubrics, and then those rubrics are the ones that you'll see in the syllabus. And so I'm going to bring up a couple basic steps. There's kind of 3 broad ways that you can begin doing those granular things that I had listed previously. Without getting into the weeds, the 3 or 4 most things we're going to be going over is discussing edit mode and student preview, looking at your test questions if your course has those, and how to view the rubrics for assignments which have rubrics. The first thing, the biggest picture is edit mode. Up in the top right here, you'll see edit mode. Edit mode will show you the course with all particular rules applied to it. So if your course releases by date, it will only show you what is going to be released to students by date. It's also great because it allows you to interact with the course without potentially changing anything significantly. If your course is bound by time, for example, releases a new section each week, the edit mode will only show you what's going to be released, so you may need to have that on when reviewing your course. Edit mode being on will show you the course in its entirety, not linked to any sort of what they call adaptive release rules. This is going to be necessary in courses that release week by week. It also allows you to edit things. That's where things get tricky, because when edit mode is on the course can be edited. One of the greatest tools that was released recently is the student preview mode. The student preview mode actually allows you to view it as though you have a direct student account, and that is incredibly valuable, particularly when you're perhaps troubleshooting some issue that you may have heard of in the past, but you're not able to reproduce it. So when we're talking about reviewing tests, there is a couple of ways to go about it.
Hold on just
If we're not supposed to change anything in the course, then why is edit mode left open to us?
Because edit mode is the only way that you're going to be able to see content that's bound by adaptive release. So many programs release modules week by week. As it turns out, if edit mode wasn't on, you wouldn't see that content and you'd be unable to QA it.
Thanks, Bill.
So the next thing I'm going to jump into is how to take a look at your tests to be sure that the tests are, again, like I said, free of typos and the subject matter is correct. So, and again, we're going to have edit mode on to take a look at the test in its entirety, and also to get around the adaptive release rules. So you would click the chevron here. Notice again how we have edit mode on in the top right, and you'll click the chevron for that test and choose edit the test. The next screen will show you the aggregate of all of the questions for that quiz or test, and the feedback and what the right answer may or may not be. Again, if you notice anything that needs to be modified here, that's what we're for. Definitely include that on your form, and we'll see to it that it gets edited in the proper places. The next thing that you would check on for assessments is rubric alignments, and to see if the rubrics are correct and they're matching what you may see in your syllabus. One of the final really main key components on the higher level of checking over your course is reviewing the rubrics. So I had navigated to an assignment that has a rubric associated with it, and I do again need to have edit mode on so that I can kind of override the adaptive release that ties it to be shown at a particular date. But then once clicking on that assignment, it shows me what the student would see in regards to submitting that assignment. And there's a button, in the middle of the page that says View Rubric. This rubric clearly outlines the expectations for the assignment, and you would want to go through that to be sure that that is also what you're seeing in your syllabus and what is, the students are being asked the appropriate, so they have the right expectations. Because there are a number of different rubrics for different assignments, it could be possible that they were cross-linked, and so you want the correct rubric for the correct assignment. So that encompasses a somewhat broad overview on kind of a tutorial on how to get started looking at this content to be sure it is All good. I'm going to pass it over to Susan, who with the education program. She's going to talk to you about kind of mini case studies on what happens when QA isn't really done.
Thanks, Corey, and I'll just take this moment again to reiterate that this is a first, and it's pretty exciting for all of us in instructional design. There are 10 of us in this room who have collaborated on putting this presentation together, and it really underscores the fact that it does take a village.
We're taking pictures. We'll post them.
We will. We'll take pictures so that you can attach some faces to the names and the voices. But also there's some 30, 40 of you involved in participating online as well, and even more folks who said that they couldn't make it today. So thank you all again for coming. So what Susan Hyde and I do on our team, and I know every other program does as well, there's an opportunity for faculty as they're teaching their course to send an email to us to say, oh gosh, there's something wrong in my course. I'm sure, oh gosh, it may not actually be the phrase that comes out. Or there might be a form that your instructional design team has that you can click easily to through your courses in the left nav bar that brings you to a form that you can provide us with feedback. So what I did is I took a look at different teams and the feedback that has come through, and thought I'd sort of take a look at some of the common issues that we've gotten and what really the ramifications are. So in one instance, we had a faculty member say that the rubric in the grade book for the assignment doesn't match the rubric in the syllabus. The rubric in the grade book was actually correct. So what the ramifications are for this from the student perspective, if you think about it, is it really sort of breaks down their trust. It causes great confusion if there are multiple sections of the course being taught. So in some of our programs, there could be as many as 16 different instructors, and they're scratching their heads saying, well, which rubric should I be using? And again, this is something that we hope that in QA that we could catch before the course actually goes live. What do you do in the case of this situation? Obviously, you're letting your ID know. What you as a faculty member should do is post an announcement immediately to your students to let them know that you're aware of the situation and that it will quickly be remedied. And then your ID, as quickly as possible, will jump on it and fix the case. How this could have been avoided in the first place? Well, Corey just went through some of those steps. One of the strategies that we recommend is if you're able to print out your syllabus or have your syllabus open as you're checking your course, that might be a good QA strategy. Another issue that unfortunately we have seen crop up, and again, Corey took a moment to show you how to check your quizzes. On occasion, there may be conflict in the answer. Maybe a correct answer is shown to be an incorrect answer. Perhaps there's a requirement that's stated in the content or some information that's provided, and then the question doesn't go along with the content. So what do? To quote the faculty member who reported this issue, it's not a great way to start off the course. So again, going through the procedure of going through your questions, going through your content before the course starts really helps. In the meantime, if this has happened, again, communicate with your students, be open, embrace the teachable moment with them. I think a lot of times we all get a little anxious about there being a mistake. I think with students, the best policy is an honest and direct one. From our point of view with instructional design, you know, again, we'll take our time, we'll go through, we'll make the checks, we'll make the fix not only in your course, but in every other subsequent section of the course, as well as in the master template. Again, we want to make sure that you don't change those issues on your own. As long as you tell us, we will make sure that every opportunity there is to catch this mistake or issue, we'll fix it. And then if we make that change that you've reported to us in the master template, it really ensures that that issue will not happen again the next time the course runs. I'll take a look at one more issue that we have seen come up. And again, this is a really tedious and really important process sometimes because we have content that may appear in more than one place. For example, a question or a prompt that may be explained or presented in the module will also appear in a discussion board. In one case, we had some incorrect directions that unfortunately appeared in the module itself, in the whole class discussion, and for my group discussions. Well, if you get into doing your math there, that's about 50 different places if you have multiple sections that ultimately need to be corrected. So again, there's no reason to panic. There's no reason to take it upon yourself to make the change. Let your ID know, post an announcement to your students, let them know that you're aware, and then we'll all get on the same page as quickly as possible. So, on that note, hopefully we have set you all on the right path for how to prepare your classes. And again, to underscore that you're not in this alone. We have your backs, and hopefully we can make sure that your courses have their best foot and content forward for launch. Are there any questions that you have for us?
All right, we have questions coming in.
You are very welcome, Al Cunningham. Brad Jackson says, QA is obviously an important thing to do. How long do online instructors have to QA their course before it is available to students?
Well, again, that's very program specific, and a lot of that has to do with the some of the procedures that we continue to refine and put in place as a team and with individual programs. Some of the more established programs may have a few more days or even weeks to take a look at their class than some other programs. I think in an ideal world, does anybody want to chime in what their ideal timeline is to QA?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, about 2 weeks. Each one of us really strives to have our courses ready and copied as soon as the course shell is made available to us. And by that I mean that the technological component that is sort of beyond instructional design, as soon as those course shells are populated with your course, your instructional designer will pull the trigger and say you have permission to go in there and do your QA. And again, we strive to give folks as much time as possible to do that QA.
Marta is asking whether the copied course is the master template itself.
Generally not, no.
Yes,
Go ahead.
Changes for generally in the master template is where changes are to be made, because all courses that run for that term, particularly if there's multiple sections of that course, are copied from the master template. So think of it like a cookie cutter.
Yeah, the master template is just that. It's literally the template. It's the mother. It's the mom of the course that all babies are born of. The queen bee, whatever metaphor you like. I like the fact that it's the cookie cutter on the. It's the stamp of the cookie cutter on the production line.
Richard Perry asks a good question. He was asking whether we as IDs will be able to resolve anomalies like the ones that are noted in real time so that grading deadlines can be met.
That really depends on the anomaly. It's a good word, but that is actually exactly the situation that we want to avoid. Where, if I understand your question correctly, the problem is caught while the course is live and being taught. And so, just to give an example, we mentioned sort of groups before, and if there's an incorrect rubric, PDF or picture of a rubric in all the groups in 5 sections of the course, there's 4 groups in each section, 5 sections, so it's actually wrong in 20 places. And that type of exponential growth in error is extremely difficult to resolve in real time and resolve in a fashion that allows the faculty and the students to continue without interruption. So that's kind of what we want to avoid, but we try.
And the second problem with resolving an anomaly that comes a little too late is if you did use a rubric once, then there is no editing of the rubric anymore in this particular section for this particular assignment. So basically you'll have to kind of grade it manually, so to speak, afterwards.
It's also worth noting that any test that has an attempt on it, it is very difficult and the options are very limited to alter that test after attempts have been made on it. So this is why it's super important to have it correct in the cookie cutter, if you will, because it does affect some things that may not be able to be changed in the future.
Tom asks another great question. He wanted to know what the preferred method is to reach the instructional design teams, whether it would be through Blackboard email, through the course, or through UNE Outlook email.
University policy is to use our UNE email addresses. So for any correspondence about any of the courses, outgoing from us to you and back to us is to use our UNE email addresses. In terms of reporting issues, each one of us has a form or method that we prefer to get feedback. I can speak for education and say that we will always take an email. I think every single one of us, whether you use our forms or not, email is best. Phone is also totally welcome and acceptable, and sometimes the phone is the best way to communicate, maybe the most efficient because we can open up our screens together at the same time and take a look at an issue. It really sort of depends.
But if you were thinking about using course messages within Blackboard, that is not going to work for us for a number of reasons. So email, phone, and or if there's a form attached for feedback, which you will be notified of.
And it looks like we have one final really important question, and that is Bill wondering where we're having breakfast in this picture. What is the name of the restaurant? What is the name of the restaurant?
It's May Lily Riley's, which is on Stevens Ave. We could actually walk there. Forest Ave, sorry, Forest Ave.
It's delicious. Banana walnut pancakes.
Highly recommended.
I didn't think that their coffee was great, I have to say. The coffee was a little weak.
Grilled muffin special.
Oh, the grilled muffin, yeah.
Well, I think we have, it's 10 till, but we can give it a minute or two more, but I don't think anybody's super sad if a webinar ends early. We really do appreciate people attending. And as a reminder, this was recorded, so if you have colleagues who couldn't make it or couldn't take the time to attend now, it will be going up on the vision.une.edu blog tomorrow, along with screenshots of the inside of this packed room where we're all crawling all over each other to get to the microphone. And thank you, Marta. We always have to say thank you, Marta. She's one of those who attends most regularly. But thank you to everyone very much, and awesome. This was great.
Should we do a group bye?
All right, group bye.
Bye.